What's going on? Welcome back to the channel and a video I'm going to call Legacy Fix, where we try to fix some of the issues with these legacy cabinets from Arcade1up. And we're going to start with that control panel that has been recessed and narrowed, created a lot of issues for the player. So we're going to go back to the Gen 3 size, 11 inches by 19 inches. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to contend with this rounded edge on the side panel. So what I did is I transferred that to a piece of MDF to use as a template. I'm going to bring it into the shop and line it up with what would be the side of your control panel. This is just a mock-up piece of wood to demonstrate how I recreated that curve. So once you have that profile marked, go ahead and grab your oscillating tool and then do a plunge cut into the side of that control panel. The depth of basically the width of the side panel itself, about a ½ inch. Make all these plunge cuts and then finish it off with a little bit of sandpaper to smooth this out. But the MDF should cut pretty well, and the oscillating tool makes quick work of it. And because the MDF is so soft, you can really get down to some fine grit and get pretty good results like this. Constantly checking that fitment as you work. Okay, now it's time to disassemble the stock control panel. The purpose of this build is to reuse all your stock components. The only thing that we're going to have new is the actual board that makes up the control panel itself, just a different size. Let's go ahead and take off the back cover, and you can see some of the differences with these legacy cabinets. If you compare this to a 2018 Gen 1 version, you can see there's not a lot of reinforcement with these bottom covers. But with the new piece from 2020, you can see that they're making strides or they're taking steps to make this a better product. You can see all the plastic reinforcement in there. And another pleasant surprise is the fact that they've changed the encoder a little bit. All the sockets and the plugs are now color coded, which is going to make putting all this back together that much easier. I think it's a nice touch. It's something that is definitely shows that Arcade1up is moving in the right direction. Here's another close-up of that encoder board itself. You can see a lot of attention being paid to the undercarriage, to the stuff that you're normally not going to see. You can also see the sockets for a speaker and a trackball. This is obviously made for all the legacy cabinets. Now the buttons and joystick holes are one thing, but the hardest thing to recreate on this panel is definitely going to be the on-off and volume control switches. You have to drill 2 holes and then sort of connect those. I'm sure a CNC router would be easier. So start with a 5/8 Forstner bit, and then drill 2 holes side by side, about 7/8 of an inch apart from outside to outside. And then where they sort of peak, you want to sand that down smooth with a file. You want these little bezels to fit in here nice and smooth. Now it's time for the arduous process of marking out every single hole. I did use the deck protector as a guide for this. I wanted to keep all the buttons and joysticks in the same orientation or the same stock location, except with our new control panel, you're obviously going to have more room to rest your palms as you play. Here I'm taking apart the on-off and volume switches to make sure that I've got this lined up exactly where it needs to be. That location is pretty crucial because these 2 buttons are together. And if you've seen my other control panel videos, you know that I set the depth of that, and then I use my router to take out that material. And you want to work that sort of freehand until that just lays in there. Once that's done, you can fire up your drill press and drill out all the holes for the control panel buttons. Okay, so it's day 2, and we've got the piece sanded, we've got all the holes drilled, it has been primed, that's what the white paint is, and then obviously hit it with the black on the underside and the top edges. And now it's time to apply our decal. Yes, that's not the stock Mortal Kombat control panel decal. I really couldn't find that image, and I couldn't find anybody that was going to be able to recreate that for me in the Gen 3 size. So this is kind of a custom design I came up with. I still retain the Mortal Kombat logo and the Midway logo on the bottom. Now once you have it aligned and applied, now it's time to cut off all the little excesses. I did use a heat gun to kind of get that edge to sort of lay down. It really helps. You don't want to use too much heat. And then obviously take a lot of care when you cut out the holes for your buttons. It'd be a shame to ruin this piece now. Alright, so with the overlay in place, we're going to go ahead and start putting in our controls. Let's start with the on, off, and volume switch. You want to make sure you pre-drill these holes in this new piece of MDF and then put everything in by hand. And of course, while I was working and putting joysticks in, I realized, oh yeah, you got to put T-molding on. So I went back and did that. Here's what everything should look like all back together. And now we're going to place our cover. Let's go ahead and using a drill to sort of just mark the holes. And then I'm going to take the bottom cover off. And I'm finished pre-drilling with a piece of tape to mark the depth on the drill bit, because I don't want to drill through this thing. That would just ruin my day. And, well, here we are. And you can see the comparison between the old and the new. Obviously, it's a completely different graphic, but you could really get a good idea of how much real estate we've gained on the sides. And you're going to have a nice chin there to rest those palms when you gain. And it's also crazy to think that this is how much room we lost when they went from the 3rd gen to the legacy cabs. And of course, with all this, you're going to have a longer bolt because these bolts just won't cut it anymore. Not going to have any spacers. This is going to be plenty to sort of keep the control panel in place. And we've also created a gap now because we've raised the control panel up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pry the sides apart after we loosen up the bottom screws on the front panel there. And we're going to replace this panel with a custom panel using the same techniques that I showed you in another video on the Street Fighter cabinet. And obviously this is going to have to be a little bit taller. We're going to have to notch this because the routing groove on the side panel doesn't extend all the way up. Use your arm to kind of pry those side pieces back apart. Make sure everything lines up nice, fits in the groove. Go ahead and tighten those screws up on the bottom. And let's go ahead and put our new control panel in place and see what it looks like. Moment of truth for sure. Huh, not bad. We're going to go and run these screws down, and right away you can tell that my T-molding doesn't exactly match. That looks like more of a dark red. I think maybe bright red would have been a better choice. But, you know, it's not off-putting. It matches the Midway logo. Alright, now let's check out these switches and see if they work. And here's another look at the before and the after. I gotta say, playing on this control panel it's really night and day. You have so much more room now. You have more room down at the bottom for your palm. Your left hand can definitely rest over there where it should be all along instead of being cramped like the original Legacy design. The screw heads are still there, but they're not terrible. Actually, the good thing about this Legacy design is that it pushes one of those screws up out of the way, so you really just got to worry about the one. And you know, the amount of real estate we've gained at the bottom really makes a huge difference. You can see the difference between the stock location of the run button and the new location based on that Gen 3 design. Alright, so there you have it. I love the way this turned out, and this control panel is definitely going to be my daily driver. And because none of these modifications have altered the cabinet in any kind of permanent way, I held on to the stock pieces just in case I wanted to go back to that stock configuration. Alright, so let me know down in the comment section, what do you think about this project? Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see you next time.